says we are live.
Yep. If somebody will confirm when they can, if you can hear us and see us and all that good stuff, and then we'll kick it off. Hopefully somebody will say hey and all that good stuff.
I'm checking now.
It says we're live. The YouTube thing just popped on and showed.
Okay. Okay, good, because I don't have YouTube on at all. I've just got StreamYard. So all the old people trying to do live. Oh, I just got the notification. Yeah, we should be good to go. So
yes, sir, we are good.
Yeah. Happy Sunday evening. We're halfway between Christmas and New Year's, so wrapping up the end of 2024. Thought it'd be a great idea to get the gang together in whatever pieces we are in and hang out for a little while this evening. So, gentlemen, how are you?
Big Johnson should go first.
Well, I mean, I'm down, but I'm not out. So, little bit, going through some broken bones and, potentially more, but, I mean, I'm alive and everything's as good as it can be. So just lucky it wasn't even worse. So
very true. I've been doing good. Just turned 50 a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
So, yeah, big 5-0.
There you go.
Nice. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. I'm proud to be the young one of the group here. Although, according to my Garmin watch, I'm much older than I really am. Apparently, I'm very out of shape. Anyways, I'm doing all right. Hanging in there. I have a left hand back again. I broke my wrist back in August and was down for the count for 3 months because of that. So everybody makes dumb mistakes and bad things happen, and you just hope you can heal and get over it and move on with life. So,
yeah.
Well, tell me what's new with you guys. Anything fun going on in the gun verse, minus any broken bones or anything like that?
Go ahead, Phil.
For me, not much. I just picked up that MC9 LS, which I showed you guys before we got on here, because we're not allowed to show any guns on live streaming, but I'm going to make a video on that. I'm going to follow up with a couple of things regarding slim guns that I'm actually carrying a hell of a lot more now than I ever have. Actually, it's really interesting to see that kind of, transition from carrying double stacked thick guns to now sort of like semi staggered stacks. I think for me as a gun owner, things are changing always. Like that's part of, I think, the evolution. I'm also, on my little weirdness of looking at YouTubers and kind of chuckling at some of the most recent controversies on YouTube when it comes to gun tubers, which I think is always, I guess we shouldn't laugh at somebody's misfortune, but at the same time, there's a lot of egos, man. And sometimes those egos need to burst a little bit. So I've just been getting a lot of entertainment watching that stuff.
Yeah.
Prior to this happening to me, I was really, enjoying carrying the Shadow 2 Compact quite a bit, and it's a great gun, fantastic gun. I highly recommend it. And also the Shadow System CR920 XP. And that was, I'm kind of in the past, I've been an anti-slim gun because a lot of them just didn't fit me well. But that Shadow Systems is worked for me very well. Matter of fact, I had it on my person when I had the accident. So had to get that. The lady was able to get that back in the house before I was taken to in the ambulance. So thank goodness. That would have not been fun being hauled in there with a gun on me. But it's, I was enjoying carrying those. Of course, I haven't gone anywhere really other than to the doctor and the MRI. So, haven't been carrying in about 3 weeks because I've been down with this, but other than that, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I would say for me, for 2024, the end of 2024, the gun for me of 2024 was the Shadow Systems Compact, or the CZ Shadow 2 Compact. That was probably pretty much my gun of 2024. I mean, I know it came out way before that. I was late to the party on it, but it's a gun I'm really glad that I got.
Nice. I don't think release date really matters. I think it's the date in which it ends up in your hands with your name on it. That's
right.
What counts.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I was saying, I know that I was late to the party because a lot of people have already had it before me, but I'm really glad that I purchased it. It's really a fantastic gun.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. It is a good gun for sure. For sure. You'll laugh. I was actually I was doing the dumb thing and looking at window shopping on Gunbroker, which for me is hard to window shop and not actually buy something. I did not, but I was actually looking at PO1s again. And I mean, they're great ones, but if I did it again, I would want an Omega again, because I really did prefer the Omega if it's out of the box and you're not really messing with anything whatsoever. And there were only a couple out there. And, I didn't want to fight over them because, there was a bidding war at the end of each one and all that kind of thing. And it's a good gun. It really is. But it's not one that I really feel passionate enough about to get in a bidding war on. I just really don't.
Yeah, I think also the fact that, with a P01, like, it's funny you say that, because I was looking at another one. And, one of the things I always say to myself is that, we go to the, like I just talked about the slimline guns. And when you look at like a P01, that the profile on that gun is very skinny. Like, you don't really, like if you've never held one, if you've never compared it to like, I compared it actually to a Hellcat. And I was like really surprised just how slim that P01 is. Now, it had obviously the standard rubber grips on there, so it's a little bit thicker, but you can get slimmer grips from Lock, and it really is a very slim package. And for me, listen, the P01 is that's the one I'll get buried with at some point. But I just think that those are the most usable, friendly carry firearms that have ever been made. It's just super comfortable and everything.
Yeah.
And that's where, I mean, I love the PO1, do not get me wrong. But when it comes to my hand size, even without a magwell or anything like that, and that's why I can compare the two.
Oh, you're covering the mic.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
That's where I can compare the two between the PO1 and the Shadow 2 Compact. Not taking anything away from the PO1. It's a fantastic gun. But for my hand size, the Shadow 2 Compact did fit my hand better, even stock, without a magwell or anything, just with the enhanced grip frame and, the trigger guard and, with the bigger finger, hole there and everything. And the trigger is phenomenal. I mean, it's like a Cajun Gun Works tricked out trigger. That trigger is even better on the Shadow 2 Compact, much better than a stock Shadow 2 full size. I mean, it's just a fantastic gun. So I know a lot of people have compared them and things like that, but I just really like, because it's like a miniature Shadow 2 frame, which I prefer over a PO1 frame. Not taking anything away from the PO1. It's a great gun, but with the flatter trigger and things like that, it's just more, I guess, ergonomic to me, so.
Yeah.
And they take the same mags. So there's the benefit there too, if you had both, and of course they both take the full size Shadow 2 mags too. So
right. I want to read a couple comments here, just because everybody's so great and puts in a lot of comments here. So Disastrous Effect said, and let's see, I suppose I should rewind a little bit. Dennis had asked if anybody gotten any new tools for Christmas, and Disastrous Effect had said, I picked up the LC carbine the day after Christmas. So that was kind of neat. Very cool. Scott 79 just paid off my Mac 5 MP5 clone. So that's very cool. Let's see here. Pistol Pete saying he's carrying his PO7. So very good. I've played around with the PO9 Nocturne a few times. It's a nice gun. I'm not blown away by it by any stretch, but it's a nice gun. I like it. I kind of wish they'd done a little bit more with the trigger. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more trigger enhancement on that personally.
Yeah, I think that's the problem too. Like right now, it seems like there's a little bit of a lull. Maybe things are building up for SHOT Show or something. But I mean, there's some really good guns out there that we all know, and I'm sure KS, you probably own them. But like I just feel like a lot of the things that people are putting out there are just out of reach for the average guy. You know what I mean? Especially one that has families and, depending on the stage of life that you're in. Right. So I always feel like, like I've been looking at what is it? The shit, I can't remember the name of the company. God. It's being distributed, but the originator is Ermox. It's the what's the one I'm looking for? Come on.
I don't know.
Fusion Arms. Fusion
Oh,
Arms, right?
sure. Okay.
Yeah. So I've been looking at that. And the reason why I'm looking at that is because of the fact that it takes Glock mags.
Yeah.
And, I know the Platypus does, but when you look at the comparison in price, I mean, you're talking 5, 6, even close to almost $1,000 difference in price. So I think like a gun like that is more appealing for me, but that's like at the max of my budget. And, go ahead.
Oh, well, I will say, and I've looked at that gun too, and
Mhm.
I've been very curious about it. I would like to get one in hand. I bought one of those Apollo 11s,
Yeah.
and I've got a Staccato P as well, and it's night and day difference.
Mm.
I mean, the Apollo's a fine gun. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with it at all. They did a very good job with it, but the difference between the two is fairly staggering, just in terms of fit and finish,
Right.
just kind of quality all the way around. I would imagine it's probably going to be roughly the same with the Platypus versus the Fusion. And the Fusion ones, I mean, they look very nice, but the Platypus, I will tell you, as an owner, and I'm not trying to be biased,
Sure.
I was blown away by the craftsmanship.
Mhm.
I would say it's on par with a Staccato P.
Yeah.
I really would, just in terms of how they fit everything together so well. The Cerakote job is second to none. I mean, it's clear that they take a lot of time and they have a lot of passion for what they're
Sure.
doing. And again, I'm not paid by Stealth Arms or anything like that. I paid for my own gun. Obviously, I'm not doing any reviews or anything. I just was overwhelmingly satisfied with it, and others have been as well. And I think if you can swing it and be able to design your own from top to bottom, I mean, you can design everything. That I think that's pretty compelling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I can't afford it. So,
No, that's understandable.
and it's like maybe in a couple of years, sure, but not right now. And like for me, I'm looking at something that's kind of similar to that. And I do like the fact that it does take Glock mags, like I said. So like, you look at some of the competitors out there, like that's one of the reasons what you mentioned about the Apollo 11 was that, I've been watching a lot of stuff, obviously. And there's been mixed reviews about what's good with it, what's bad with it. So I obviously have some reservations. I'm sure it's a fine gun, at least for me. Like I said, it's not necessarily. I don't want it to be a trophy piece, but at the same time, I want to make sure if I am going to pay that amount, it would be something that I feel like is more useful. And I think just the reciprocity of magazines, especially with something that's so readily available, like that's a no-brainer.
Sure. Well, 100%, 100%. Hey, real quick, Scott is asking, excuse me, sorry, I'm getting over a cold. Did anyone see the new Alien Carry pistol?
Oh yeah,
like
I did.
$6,000 rich man's toy.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
do you think of that?
I would love. I'm not even going to tell you how pathetic I am. So I would love to own one. So I did reach out to him. So I had to fill out this form, and I almost said at the bottom like no chance in hell. But I said fuck it. They sent me the information. I sent it out back to him. So maybe I'll have an opportunity to actually review that gun, but I highly doubt it. But that thing, I like it. It looks badass. It does. Looks really awesome.
Yeah, I saw the video on it and everything, and I think it looks really awesome. And I mean, dropping it off the building and doing everything they did to it. I mean, again, it's $7,000, but I think it's really cool. Would I personally buy one? No, but I mean, I think it's good that people have options.
Yeah. I don't know. $6,000 farm. The Alien's an intriguing proposition. If you had the expendable money, if it was growing on a tree out back, just to try it out, to say you have one to show off at the range with your friends and everything, I'm on board with that. However, as a carry gun, I mean, I struggle with that a little bit. Plus, it's basically a platform unto its own, right? I mean, when you look at, and I'm not the biggest Glock fan or anything, but when you look at Glock or Smith & Wesson M&Ps or some of these other ones, they essentially are the same platform, or they are very, very similar, to where the engineering that's gone into those things, by and large, works pretty well, right? And the Alien, from a defensive perspective, I struggle with the idea of doing that. Again, as a range toy, as a competition gun, or anything else, I'm totally fine with that. I really am. And I would love the opportunity just to shoot one, just to say I've done it. I don't have to own one, but just to say, yep, I've shot that one time. That would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So what you're saying, KS, is it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to get it.
Sure. Check with me in about 40 or 50 years. We'll
Yeah.
see if I'm able to swing that. Now that's tough. I have one on the map for 2025. I have one, and that's it. And I think that's probably going to be about all I can do, because I'm really trying to curtail the firearms purchasing a little bit and more just enjoying. I know I get that look from a lot of people. I really do. My track record has not been very good, but the focus is to try and enjoy what I have a little bit more. I've spent so much time, running after the next thing, just because this is such a kind of an OCD passion of mine. I want to slow down. I'd rather spend more money on ammo, spend more money on targets, all that kind of stuff. But there is one gun. There is one gun.
You want to tell?
Yeah, you want to tell us?
No, I'll tell you. I don't care. A Staccato XC. I have wanted one since they came out, and I've kind of sidestepped it. At one point I did get a Combat Master, and that scratched the itch for quite a while. But I would really like an Island Barrel, an XC. I mean, I think that'd be a lot of fun, and I've had the chance to shoot those on quite a few occasions. I've got a buddy that has one, and I've enjoyed it every single time, and I just think that'd be a lot of fun. I really do.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're really nice guns.
Yeah, they are. They definitely are, and I like the 2011 platform quite a bit. It's not my favorite platform, but I do enjoy it. And as far as shooting goes, I enjoy first the heavier guns, of course, because my hands are my hand anyway. But then also just ones that just make it easier and more enjoyable to shoot. You don't have to work as hard. Even that P that I've got, it's a steel frame P. It's the heavier of the two, and it's got the 2.5 pound trigger, so it's their lighter trigger on it.
Yeah,
that thing is effortless to shoot, and I'd love to ratchet that up just a little bit. It's probably not worth the money to do it, but I would like to do that.
And see, I have the aluminum P, the alloy, and I mean, I really enjoy it, even over the steel, because I have other steel guns, but I guess it just comes down to whatever you like. But I mean, I think the P is a fantastic gun itself, and I do have the comp on mine, which I enjoy. So it's kind of like an XC, but it's longer. But it's not the Island Barrel and all that stuff. But yeah, they're fun guns.
Yeah. That's the idea anyway.
Oh, there you go.
Let's see, I'm looking around here. See what else is going on in the crowd here real quick. Big J, Dennis is saying, do you still have your POF AR? I might buy a 10.5 POF or an 11.5 BCM 5.56 pistol.
Yes, I have two POFs. I have a 10.5 300 Blackout POF, which I love. It's a fantastic gun. And then I have the 12.5 308 POF. And it's, the 308, and it's a fantastic gun too. So both work really well. I had problems with the POF 308, when it first came out, but they made it right and fixed it, and I haven't had a problem since. I do need to shoot both of those even more. And that was my plan for 2025. I don't know what my plan is now. We're going to play it by ear, but I'm definitely jonesing to go shoot.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, who can blame you? So Pistol Pete was saying he'd buy a custom 1911 for $7,000 if he was rich, and Rabbi is asking how much better is a $7,000 1911 compared to a $2,000 1911. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I've had a $7,000 1911 back in the day, Les Baer and Ed Brown's and stuff like that. I mean, when you really get into, now that's when they made true craftsmanship guns. They've decreased that now, and a lot of those frames are from the Philippines now on the Les Baer side. Mine were not, or mine wasn't. When you get a true hand-built gun, the fit, the finish, I mean, it's pretty amazing. and mine was the, whatever you call it. What's the engraving, they do with the scroll? I can't remember.
Etching.
Etching or whatever. That was all hand done back in the day. When you get something like that, it's a very unique gun. Would I buy one now? Probably not. But there is a difference. I mean, because matter of fact, both of those guns, and when you buy them, it says this. They want 1,000 round break-in before you even disassemble the guns, before you even take them apart. So, and I mean, they ran, but the tolerances are just stupid. I mean, there is absolutely, and this, KS, you can get a little movement from, like the staccato, just a little bit. I'm talking both of these Les Baer and Ed Brown. There was zero movement. I mean, there was no play in that gun. So, or those guns. So, but that was also back in the day. I don't know. I haven't seen any current ones, so I don't know that. But would I do it again? No.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, and I do not have experience with $7,000 1911s by any stretch. But those tight tolerances, a couple things, they make it really difficult to take apart the firearm, especially at first. But I also understand that after a certain amount of rounds, I mean, it starts to really break in, and the pieces all marry together properly and everything, and it loosens up a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I put a lot of rounds through both of them. They weren't safe queens, but even like, say you buy a really nice staccato or something like that now, the tolerances aren't that tight to begin with. So when they break in, I'm not saying they're sloppy. Mine aren't even now, but that gun, it's like, or those guns back in the day, they were just, I mean, they were literally like sewing machines, but it was almost like it was built out of one block. I mean, they were just that tight. So, and I know I've shot Infinities. I haven't owned an Infinity, but I've shot 3 or 4 different Infinities, and those are incredible guns too. But it kind of, in my eyes, and with the experience in the years and years and years I've been with guns, there comes to a point in my mind, and I guess in my pocketbook, where it's kind of like, okay, there is diminishing returns. So
Oh yeah,
I can take my staccato, and I mean, I've shot it against an Infinity. I compared them. Yeah, there's videos back in the day. And for me and my shooting ability at that time with the same ammo, one wasn't drastically better than the other. I put up pretty much the same damn groups at the same yardage, same ammo. So, and then with the MPA, my MPAs are tighter tolerances than my staccato. So if you're really looking at true build quality, the MPA is a great, awesome built 2011. And I shot it against Infinities. I shot it against the Alien. I shot it against, some other high-end guns that Jacob had, because he had some really high-end guns. And that MPA hung with all of those in my hands. I'm not saying I'm a professional shooter, because I am not. Far from it. But that's why I'm thinking, if you go past that, are you really gaining anything but saying, hey, I own an Infinity, or I own a whatever it might be? For me, I just don't see that anymore. For me.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think there's absolutely such thing as diminishing returns, and that it doesn't have to be a $2,000 gun to a $7,000 gun. I mean, you look at things, even take a Glock, and you look at some of the enhancements that people make, and some are good. I don't have a problem with them, and everybody can do whatever they want with their gun. I don't have a problem with that either. But there comes a point where, again, to me, it's diminishing returns, and you're just putting a lot more money into a platform that probably, there's kind of a limit to what I think you can do to make it better, and then it's just Gucci at that point.
Yeah, and it's even more relatable, when you step out of the gun world, and Phil knows this as well. Think about when you get into the Jeeps. You buy a Jeep, you got X amount of price on it, then you put a lift kit on it, then you put wheels on it, then you put a row bar, then you put a brush guard, you do all this other stuff. I mean, it's great to have all the accessories, because I'm an accessory guy. I love accessories. But at the end of the day, you wreck that Jeep.
Right. You don't get any of it.
You got a Jeep with accessories on it. So now, if you have accessory insurance, they'll pay you for all those accessories. If you don't, you're shit out of luck. But, it kind of is like, okay, you can put all that shit on it, but at the end of the day, it's still a Jeep. So
but then let me ask you this then. What do you think is a I guess almost like a break even firearm? And what I mean by that is, you can go out and buy a $7,000 1911. You know, could you potentially sell that at a later date for more money? I don't personally think so. It would have to be dependent on what it is, if it's etched, if there's something unique about it, right? And then you can go out and buy yourself like a $400 canic, right? More than likely you're going to get that return maybe 300 bucks, 350 maybe
If
max,
that.
right? But is there a gun that is a break even point? Is there a manufacturer out there that makes a product that's good and retains its value, or even maybe increases the value? I have a couple in my head that I'm thinking of, but I want to know what you guys are thinking.
Well, I mean, I'll let you go ahead, KS.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I've got, this is kind of where I feel that you really can't go wrong, say for a 2011. And I'm not just pushing staccatos. I'm not.
Mm.
But for what you get for the internal ignition kit, no tool or no MEM, none of that trash. And trust me, I've had MEM problems, so I'm not speaking out my ass. I've had failures on MEM parts. But I think best bang for the buck for a 2011 that you could depend on would be a staccato. Okay, now pick your poison. It could be a C, it could be C2, XL, whatever you want. Okay, I really don't think that you could go wrong with that. And if you even found a really nice used one, they have a lifetime warranty that goes
Right.
with the gun, not with the owner, with the gun. So even if you bought one used that was nice, you still get that warranty through staccato. And ask me how I know. I had the frame warp at 5,000 rounds on my C2. They replaced the whole freaking gun. So, I mean, that's the kind of shit that I look for. And that's why I'm saying if you go, I would say staccato or MPA if you're looking for a 2011, because both of those are lifetime warranty
Mhm.
and they're both fantastic guns for the price point. If you go above that, I don't really know what you're gaining. And then on your polymer guns, as far as like a Glock, a lot of people buy Glocks and they put a lot of stuff on it. I mean, that is one thing that I can really appreciate about Shadow Systems. Not that I'm a fanboy, I'm not, drinking, they're not paying me or anything, but all of the stuff that they do to their guns already, that's the things I would do to a Glock.
Mhm.
I would put want all the bells and whistles, want the optic plate, and I love their optic, the way it's set up on there, their optic cut. And then, if you're wanting just a really good, kind of do it all gun, you could do like a Shadow 2 full size or a Shadow 2 compact. I think that's a lot of bang for the buck. And I mean, I've even tested it. I took my Shadow 2 compact against my Staccato C2. I shot the
Mhm.
same freaking groups. And one thing, I even did the video on it. I took my $3,500 MPA and ran it against my Shadow 2 compact, exact same groups. One's $1,200, one's $3,500. So, I mean, you don't have to spend three or four or five or $6,000 to get a great gun that you can shoot well. So, and a lot of people aren't going to do that, which I completely understand. So, I just say get what you enjoy and fits into your lifestyle and into your wallet, so to say. You don't have to break the bank to get a great gun, and there's plenty of them out there. That's why it's so great that we have all these options that we have.
Right.
But
Right.
what about you, KS?
Well, and as far as the break even thing, I don't think there really are many, if any, that are really break even anymore. There's some that probably come pretty close consistently, and at least I'll say it from a dealer perspective, because do we sell used firearms and that sort of thing, so we get to see what the market is really demanding for those, or at least get a glimmer into that.
Right.
So Jerry Johnson had mentioned the CZ Shadow 2. I'd say that's pretty close. They don't generally command exactly what they go for brand new, and part of that is because they're in production. And if people are going to pay that kind of price, they're going to want a new gun generally. But
Right.
they usually get 85 to 90% of the going rate. That's pretty good. Another one that comes to mind, believe it or not, and this may not be the case as much today, although it's still pretty close, but back, even 10 years ago, you basically could get what you paid for back out of it. It was Colt 1911s. Colt 1911s generally, they retain their value pretty well. And I think a lot of it is because there are a lot of guys out there, older guys especially, that love their Colt 1911s and they want them, and they will pay for them. So that's another one that really kind of pops out in my head. Like, yeah, those consistently do better than I would expect them to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would, again, like if you're looking at guns, I think the key is to find something that is unique about the firearm, right? Something that is not necessarily mass produced, transferable, that kind of stuff. So like, you know, like a 226, a lot of people say, well, those are like everywhere, right? But there's a few of them that are kind of unique. So like, I think like a stainless alloy, you know, aluminum alloy with the stainless slide, like those are hard to find nowadays, you know? So something like that to me is where those value pieces go. And in those cases, sometimes those even increase in value because, like you said, it's about production. Are they still in production? Well, the newer line is obviously, but not the older ones. So I think something like that is like, if you look at a Beretta 92, if you look at one that's all of the inox, right? So you're looking at a Ghost model, right? Those are hard to come by, right?
Yeah.
And if you can find one in pristine shape, you're going to get money from that, you know? And I think like those are the type of guns that I look at now. And I'm like, boy, you know, what would that be worth now versus in 5 years? And everything fluctuates, right? So there's ebbs and flows in the market too. You know, sometimes those metal SIGs seem to pull a lot of money or retain their value more. I think the CZ Shadow 2 is a great example of that. I think anything from CZ, with the exception of probably like the 75s, the full size 75s, but like Shadow 2s, probably the compact will retain its value. Interestingly enough, the DWXs went up in price from when they originally launched, you know? So like I've been looking at those because that's another gun that I kind of have on my bucket list of guns. And every time I look at it, I'm just amazed about where they were released price-wise when they first came out to where they are now. And they've actually gone up in price. So it's like, to me, the polymers just are never going to retain their value. Just is no way, you know, you're going to, you know, and it makes perfect sense, right? Like people, for whatever reason, people are still going with Glocks. And I still don't understand that because there's so many other better versions of what a Glock could be. Whether it's the Shadow Systems, I mean, the Bull Armory, their polymer guns are fantastic. You know, the Canics are actually very good. I think we could all admit that they make pretty good stuff. But the value of them it's forget about it. I mean, I just picked up a 48 MOS and I paid $350 for it, brand new.
Yeah.
So
see, I think guns like, you know, I was talking about earlier, like Staccato do hold their value. You know, Infinities, of course, hold their value if you buy them on the used market, because for one, they take freaking 9 months or 10 months to get. So if somebody can find one at a gun store used, they're going to jump all over it. You know, and like you were saying, Phil, it's like you go into some of these gun stores, and I've even said this before, I will not collect Tupperware guns that I can go out and buy tomorrow at a gun store. I just won't do it. If I don't enjoy the gun, it's gone. I'm not keeping them anymore.
Yeah.
You know, but like the P10s and the P07s and stuff, you know, I really love those guns. So now am I going to run out and buy a Nocturne? No. I don't see enough difference in the P07 or P09 for me personally, because mine are tricked out already. So I don't have to do anything to them. But plain versus plain, yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool gun, but I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm over those guns, but I'm kind of, in a way, I guess, over those guns. I mean, I just like different things. I mean, I think we all evolve, like we've talked about before, kind of go around that circle. And, you know, I enjoy what I enjoy, but I don't discredit anyone else for what they enjoy or like. But I'm just kind of tired of all the, you know, if you can walk into a store and buy it and there's 3 or 4 on the shelf, I'm to the point where I just don't even want those guns anymore because they're not different enough for me.
Right.
I'm just tired of the plain same old, same old.
I would also challenge you on that to say, like, you know, go out and start handling more of those slim model guns, because I think it might surprise you, especially if you like the CR 920. Because, you know, I've got the 365 Fuse, which I have to say is my favorite of all of them right now.
I wouldn't say that's a small gun though. You've got to agree. That's not normal.
It's considered a skinny gun.
It's a slim 320.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's a slim gun, right? And, you know, comparatively speaking to all of them, the only real, in my opinion, the only real skinny gun is still the Shield. And the 48 is pretty damn close, but it's still just slightly thicker than the Shield. You know, I've got the Shield, the 48, I've got this new Canic, and I've got that 365. This Canic is, in my opinion, it's as thick as a 365 fuse, and the slide is actually thicker as well. So that kind of is on that borderline of, is it skinny? Is it full size? You know, it's kind of like a hybrid, man, but it's actually an interesting firearm in a lot of ways. But I will say this to everybody who's on the fence about it: don't necessarily believe all the hype you've been watching on YouTube, because I will tell you, I will say it right here, there's a lot of bullshit on this gun, and one of them actually is the trigger, surprisingly enough.
Which gun again?
The Canic, the MC9 LS. I mean, it's a good trigger, but I'm going to tell you, it ain't the best one. That's for sure. And that's what everybody was pushing on this gun. It was incredible.
What don't you like about it? I'm curious.
Very long take up.
Okay.
Extremely long. If you compare it to every other gun that I have, I will say it's extremely smooth, right? But it's much longer than the Shield. It's much longer than the Glock, and it's probably slightly longer, but a hell of a lot smoother than the SIG. SIG's got the worst trigger of all of them.
Yeah.
But
SIGs are shit.
Well, I like the fuse, man. Fuck you.
You know, I'm a SIG hater.
I know you are.
Yeah.
So you know, I think that while the trigger has a very smooth take up, it's extremely long in my opinion, and the reset is not any better than the Shields. So I just felt like that wasn't necessarily an accurate representation. But I also had told you guys earlier, I'm beginning to see more the difference of influencers on YouTube versus actual reviewers on YouTube. And there's a hell of a lot more influencers than there are reviewers at this point.
Well, yeah. So case in point, and I've got a question for you guys, and I don't think anybody's mentioned this in the chat. And by the way, everyone, you guys are so great. I see all the comments going back and forth, and I want to call them out. I'm trying to call people out and everything to say hello and just get everybody up on the screen. So I'm trying to do that, but hopefully everybody's having a good time. But this new Ruger Glock thing, I forget, like RTX or whatever it's called. I don't even know.
Or something.
Yeah, and I don't watch as much gun YouTube stuff anymore. I really don't. I spend more time watching other types of content. But I know there's a lot that came out right away on that. What do you guys think of that Ruger?
You want to go, Phil?
Well, my dogs are barking, so you might as well go ahead and talk.
Here's what I think about it.
Microphone.
Oh, mine?
Yeah. There you go.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I think about it. I think for Ruger, they've kind of been fuddish on a lot of their plastic guns in the past. This is just my opinion. So I think this could wake them up to have other options. But you got to look at what they're, and this is just my opinion. I don't know all this to be facts, but they're working with, Magpul. Okay, so you can take that fire control unit out. You can turn your gun, your 19, into a 19X. You could turn it into whatever. If Magpul makes the other frames like they should and opt in different colors, and say they made a flux version, like a PCC where you could drop that fire control unit in there, that could be a big selling point. Say if Ruger made an AR where you could drop that trigger group in there, because all of those things could be shipped right to your door. Okay, literally. So if they play this correctly and as they should, and I'm already predicting at SHOT Show, you're going to go to the Magpul booth and there's going to be freaking everything for this coming SHOT Show in January. So, and then of course, when you go to the Ruger, they're going to have all of that crap over there too. So if they play their cards correctly, I think this could be very big for them. Now, granted, since I've been busted up, I've been watching a ton of videos, and I watched a ton of videos on those. And so far, everything's been really good. What I've seen, and which is error on the installer's portion, but some people are putting different dots on them and using longer screws and going down to the injection, and causing it not to eject correctly. So, but people went through that with Glocks. So, as long as they're doing their part, the gun seems to be pretty reasonable. You are getting a lot of features that you don't get on a standard Glock. So I think it's cool to have, the metal sights and, different optic setups on it. So I think it's kind of feature rich for what it is at a budget price. Now, granted, it's a freaking Glock. It's a clone. But I mean, if somebody wants an orange frame or a pink frame or whatever it might be, the frames are $40. So they already have a gray frame on their, or excuse me, a black frame on their website for $40. So if they play their cards right, I think this could be pretty big for them if they have all of these options I brought up. You know, so, but they can't wait 6 months or a year for this shit to come out.
Right.
So, but I mean, is it the best thing since sliced bread? Probably not. But I think this could advance Ruger into younger people buying Ruger because, I mean, and y'all probably know this too. A lot of the Ruger guys are the older crowds, and I don't want to say FUD in a negative way, but you know, and I like some of the Ruger stuff too. You know, the 2245 and stuff like that. But I think this could help get some of the younger people in the Ruger crowd.
Okay. Do you think the market's a little bit oversaturated on Glock clones?
Yeah, I do. But that's what I'm saying. If they play their cards right and they have all these different colors and maybe a PCC and all these things where you could drop your fire control unit, if they play it correctly, this could be pretty big for them. And they could take a piece of the market that other clones don't because they don't have those FCU setups. So that's the advantage I see with the Ruger and the price point. Is it the Holy Grail? No. But I mean, we could, you know, during SHOT Show, we could look back and go, holy crap, that's a really cool PCC setup or a Flux type PDW setup they have, you know, and all you got to do is buy, and they could even do combo packs. Like, hey, you buy the pistol and it, you know, you get this Flux setup in there, or you get an extra frame setup, you know, because there's some states, and y'all know this, where they can only have like, what, 2 or 3 guns, so to say. Well, now you could have 3 or 4 frames, but only 1 serial number, you know, like SIG. So, I mean, it's just another option. You know, I don't think it's a negative thing, but yeah, I mean, the Glock clones are freaking everywhere. I mean, but it's just, I think it's another option that the price point is good on it. And I think, put it this way, and I got a question for y'all. And I even thought about this. Okay, if it came down to it today and you had to buy a Glock clone, you could only pick from 2. You could pick the Ruger setup or a PSA setup like the Dagger. Which one would you buy?
Ruger. I wouldn't buy anything from PSA.
Well, I'm just saying, and here's where it goes back to. I think Ruger has a little better quality control, and I've dealt with their customer service in the past, and it's been really, really good. So that's where I think they're going after PSA, literally, to get a little piece of that pie and to have different options. So that was just kind of where I was throwing it out there. Now, the price point with PSA on those Daggers is strictly price. I mean, I've played with a couple of them, and I'm not super impressed with the Dagger. The triggers are crap, and I even had one trigger where I was pulling it, and you would pull it back, and it would stick. And I had to pop it back forward. And it was the plastic where it was the trigger little cutout rail in the plastic had like some, you know, like burrs in it. So I sanded it down for the guy and fixed it. But, you know, I mean, everybody's on a price point, everybody's on a budget, but I would buy the Ruger before I would buy the PSA.
See, now, KS, you asked if you think there are too many clones on the market, or I think you asked that, right?
Well, I mean, you didn't ask, but it was more of a statement. But
Right. It's a statement. And I'm not sure I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that. And I'll quickly, hopefully try to quickly explain why, because, you know, from a business perspective, right? You know, we talk about flooding the market with Glock clones, but you could easily say the market's getting flooded with overpriced guns that nobody can afford. I mean, you know, and again, it's about perspective, right? Everybody has their own perspectives on things. You know, the majority of people, I think, probably share a similar perspective about what I think. And again, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just going to say it is. And I would think that, you know, when you're seeing guns that are, you know, being pushed and peddled for $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, you know, yes, it would be a love of my life to be able to get those, but the majority of people can't. So then you have to look at what part of the market can you still make a name for and actually be a little bit more innovative than what's already there. So like, to me, the Ruger is not a clone. While yes, it is a Gen 3 Glock. We know that. The modularity, guess what? That has nothing to do with Glock. That's totally different than anything Glock has made. So as Big J has said, I agree. Like, they're onto something. And obviously, to me, like, if I'm looking for a gun, I want something that can adapt, right? And it's an adaptable firearm for the simple fact that you pull out the trigger control group. Next thing you know, you can change the size, you can change the slide color, whatever else you want to do with it. So I think from that perspective, in this case, while it is similar, right? It wears the same clothes as a Glock. It already has an advantage, a distinct advantage. A, price point advantage. B, modularity advantage. And while there are other clones out there, for example, the Shadow Systems line is a Glock clone. That's all that is, with a fancy mounting system for the optics. The Bull Armors, fancy clones. That's all it is. The Ruger, while yes, it shares the same inner parts of a Glock, and in that case, it is a clone-ish type of Glock. I think it has a distinct advantage on the fact that it is modular, and that's what I think people have to think about. So, like for me, if you're going to look at a PSA versus the Ruger, I immediately would say Ruger, A, because there is a history towards the Ruger company, right? But also the fact that it is modular, so you're going to have that ability to now change into whatever you want it to be, as long as there's support for that, and that's going to be the key to it.
Yeah.
So they aren't the first to do it. Keep in mind, Zev did it too. And theirs is modular as well, but
a much higher price point.
Well, price point.
100%. You're right. And your point is totally valid. And I think the modularity part is neat. I do. However, in looking at the overall market, the polymer striker fired market is so grossly oversaturated. And I say that because I'll see the used prices and how they sell. And if you've got a $550 Glock, you can turn around, you buy it, and then 2 months later, it's worth $250, right? And it's nothing wrong with the gun. Nothing. I mean, the gun's doing its job, right? The gun didn't get to choose its price. It just performs or it doesn't perform, one or the other. So not a knock on the gun by any stretch. It's more the market and again, kind of that oversaturation thing. So I appreciate the modularity. And I too would probably go with Ruger if faced with that choice of going with one or the other, even though I do not have a problem with PSA, but I would probably opt for Ruger. Based upon previous experiences with Ruger. So that I would have. But at the end of the day, to me, it's a Glock. I've handled them. We have them at the store. They're fine. I like their price point, and I do like what they offer. So to those who want that style of gun, I think they're getting a pretty good deal for what they're getting. So I appreciate that very much. But at the end of the day, to me, it's another Glock clone. Even though it's got a fancy trick up its sleeve, it's a Glock clone. But to your point, on the opposite side of the spectrum, with some of the more expensive firearms like the 2011s and Shadow 2s and various things, and really in these days, Shadow 2 is not a very expensive firearm. But I mean, I start thinking like 2000 up is really when things get far more pricey. And now we've got this Kimber firearm that everybody's oogling over, even though I think it is a good looking gun. But to me, it's a Kimber.
Although like 2 years ago, Kimbers were pieces of shit according to everybody.
Well, and so that was to my point. I was like, Kimber, to me, you lost me at Kimber. I'm not a fan. That's not a thing, as good looking as they are. But I will tell you, even though some of those other guns are expensive and they are hot commodities, people are buying them. And I mean, they're buying them. And so more and more companies are making their own version of it. Like the Prodigy, now to the Prodigies, I guess a pat on the back to them. They tried to make one at a lower price point to get more people in the door for 2011s. They had kind of a rough start, but I think they've ironed things out pretty well. But people are buying them. They really are.
Well, and I'll tell you another gun that I got to play with before I freaking broke my leg. Texas Gun Experience had their grand opening, so I went there, and Mike Foxtrot was there, and they had the new Rhombulus. I don't know if y'all have seen it. It's the new, double stack 1911, and PVD coded or DLC coded. It was really, really nice, and the gun was actually a very, very nice gun for a 2011. There's no mem parts and all of that. I talked to the guy, and he was giving me the lowdown. And I want to say it was like what, $1,500 or something like that. And I played with it, I racked it, played with the trigger, and I was like, this is a pretty nice gun. It was a sample of one. And I didn't get to shoot it because they weren't, it wasn't in the range, but I got to play around with it. So I mean, I know there's different options out there and they're making them for people. But I will say this, and I just want to get y'all's opinion on this. Okay, if let's just say Ruger has they line up all of this and Magpul lines up all of this at SHOT Show, and like their booth is full of all these different options to drop that fire control unit into a PDW or a PCC or whatever, and they've got all these different colors and everything. Would either one of y'all buy one if they had all of the different offerings to put that FCU in that appealed to you? Would you spend $400 to buy one?
Not in its present state. Like I said, for me, I'm not really looking at a thick double stack gun anymore.
Well, they're
know?
supposed to come with it. Just so you know, they are supposed to be coming with a slim line also.
I mean, I would entertain the idea. Why not? You know, I mean, there's nothing that says not to, right? I mean, I just don't know. Like, it's so hard to determine like where I'm going to be in 3 months, 6 months, or whatever in regards to my love for guns. But
exactly,
I also think it's going to be how well do they, you know, have our experts on YouTube peddle their shit. You know, that's going to be the key. That's going to be the key. And I guarantee you, when it hits and out there, and if you're right on everything you're going to see, I can't wait to see everybody dropping the same fucking video on the same day within 30 minutes of each other.
Wow,
and that's what drives me crazy. So
well,
I think that's going to be the determining factor.
But they have to do that because that's what is it called? You know what I'm talking about, KS. There's a word for it, and I can't remember it.
Well, I mean, it's the marketing of the future. I mean, that basically more and more industries are relying on influencers and that sort of thing. And I think, and we've talked about this many times on our chats, I think there's a fine line between bringing a product out and talking about it and offering your opinion and everything, but then also there's the side of money exchanging hands and maybe having some parameters in which you can talk about and not talk. That's where things get a little bit uncool, in my opinion. But if it's a thing where they're giving it to you and they say, you can say whatever you want,
do whatever you want
with it. We're not paying you a dime. You need to turn the gun back, but have some fun, make some content, keep it for 6 months, whatever, show your friends, that sort of thing. We'd love to hear your feedback. We stand behind our product. I'm fine with that. That's totally cool. Yeah. But at the same time, I can hear a little bird in my ear going, well, as a YouTube channel, you want to be able to make some money and that sort of thing. And it's a tough juggling act a little bit. If you're doing it for fun, kind of like the three of us did, where it's not your livelihood, and you're not paying the bills with YouTube money and that sort of thing, then yeah, you don't need to pay me. Send me the gun for some content. I'll send it back. I don't really care. It's a way for me to get some more content out there and get eyes on my channel. Terrific. And I'll offer my opinion along the way, as long as you don't tell me what to say.
Yeah.
But that's tough. That's tough. And I think we are seeing more and more often, because more companies and more industries are becoming savvy to the idea of influencers on social media, whether it's YouTube or whatever other hot things there are out there anymore. And they want a piece of that pie. And the gun manufacturers, more and more of them are really on it. Remember, kind of back when Springfield was one of the first to really kind of jump on that bandwagon, but more and more are doing it. And so now we're seeing a flood of firearms every so often, 30, 40 videos all on the same day on the same thing. I may find one of them interesting, but, I cannot stomach more than 2 of them because they're saying essentially the same thing. And it's like, God, I do not want to see any more of this. And to me, it's a little bit of a turnoff.
Yeah, the word I was looking for is embargo. They all have to really on that certain.
Yeah, and I'm aware of that, but
that's why you're getting them, and and also they'll say, hey, you can't put it out till the 1st,
right?
For example, and people are dropping it at 12 o'clock at night on the 31st,
right?
Or where it's just changed to the 1st. So, I mean, everybody wants to be first to the punch when stuff like that, and that's another thing that I've always been pretty good about, is not chasing that next thing. Right. Not buying just a gun just for content, or if somebody sent one or whatever, that's different. But if they're just like, hey, I'm going to run out and buy that so I can get in on the group, because some of those guns, you want to see how they're going to do, because we all know we've been through the beta testing period with guns and some of this gear stuff. So
but I also think that's a part of the problem too, is that you will never never know what it's like, because I don't know. Like I guess my look on things is that it's becoming so disingenuous, and like Kaya said, it's the same shit. It's the same talking points. So
Yeah.
you never know anything. You never know if it's a reliable gun, or if it's really this good or that bad, or whatever. So, while I understand that the businesses want to push the product, I totally understand that. Like that's capitalism 101. We all understand that concept. The
Yeah.
problem is that it's diluting what the viewers really want to know. Like they want to know, is it a valuable thing to buy before they go and buy it? But when you watch some of this stuff, you never get any of that. You don't get anything. You just are told, yeah, look, it's new, it's shiny, it has this trigger and this optic capability and this and everything else. But you never hear, well, if you have this type of thing, maybe it won't work for you, right? And like, to me, that's what's missing. And that's what, in my opinion, these manufacturers are missing. So right now they're riding that big wave because, they're getting, 5, 6 influencers all at the same time doing it. But then there's a whole slew of people out there that they're missing. And that's the thing I think that irritates me. And that's why I said to you, there's a huge difference between influencers in this community versus actual reviewers. I would say the three of us were at one time actual reviewers. We didn't, we had a couple of, hey, we're going to send this to you, blah, 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 blah. Like, I know I had a couple,
Sure.
and I think I gave an honest opinion and that was the end of it, but that's how it is. Right.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, if people are watching this stuff and they're making their decisions based on what they're watching, like at what point do people start to say, well, wait a second, you just said that this gun was great. Now this gun's great too, but what is really the truth behind these guns, and that's something that I think nobody wants to talk about. It's almost like it's the thing that no one ever wants to say about the gun community on YouTube. And I'm beginning to get to the point where I don't have a problem saying, like, most of the people that everybody watches are full of shit, period, full of shit. And they can get pissed and they can call me out and say, I suck. And you're right. I do. I don't do this for a living. So I don't really have that, or I guess the input behind it all, right? Because I have other things in my life that are taking time up from me. But at the same time, when I make a video, it's whatever I think based on what I'm seeing in front of me. And I'm never going to stop doing it that way. And I just think right now, the more I watch YouTube and I watch the gun videos, the more I'm saying, oh my God, fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. And that's kind of one of the things I'm going to broach about this Canic. Like, some of the things people were saying about this gun, and I love the gun. I do. It's I told you guys before, it is by far the most naturally point of aim gun I have. As soon as I bring it up, it's right on point. And that's impressive. Like, I feel like their ergonomics on this are probably some of the best. But at the same time, there were things about this gun that I was like, that's not necessarily what I heard from 90 other videos.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate that this is what we're dealing with. And unfortunately, like, if you say anything about it, all of the dick suckers out there come after you. And it's like, it's the dumbest thing. And I think it's interesting because there are some channels out there who are calling some of these people out. And I think it's about time.
Well, yeah, I mean, things get a little bit dangerous when you've got a dozen, 2 dozen channels, whatever, that are releasing all the same information all on the same day. And so people who are waiting for this product to get really excited, especially when the tone is overwhelmingly positive. You might occasionally have somebody say, well, there's one little thing I'm not really fond of, but that's a me thing. That's no problem with the gun or anything like that. And so they go out and they buy one, or they go out and handle one, whatever it is, and they have a very different experience than all of this that's been said on social media. And that's why, again, and I was going to say something, but I realized that everybody in here in the chat is savvy. And I watch you guys and your conversations. You guys know what's going on, and you guys are pretty in touch with how all of this stuff works in the chat ground. But for me, if I'm curious about a new gun, I mean, I might watch some of those release videos just to get an idea of what it looks like in the hand and the measurements and some of that kind of thing. But then I'll tune away for a while, and I'll come back when other people have it in their hands. That second wave, where it is more, to your point, reviewers, right, rather than influencers, so I can get a different perspective on it.
That's what I was going to say. We've been muddled down with the bullshit of the day, where they're dumping, 50 videos, which I understand. But, I'm also pretty gun savvy. Y'all are gun savvy. A lot of people are. So we can kind of, we can kind of dig through the bullshit of some of these videos just to get the idea of it or the perception of it. And then, I was going to say, yeah, then the second wave comes in where the people go out and spend their money and they're like, you know, now granted, I've seen some of those videos with the second waves where, and I'm not trying to be rude, but you can tell this might even be the first video that person's done. And, they kind of don't know the lingo. They kind of don't know how to put a dot on. There's some of the things where they'll say, oh, this gun's a piece of shit. And they didn't even use a torque wrench to put the, put the dot on. They just hand tightened it and it flew off. And they're blaming it on the gun. So I know there's things like that. And, we just got to pick through everything. And that's why, I've even said this too. And that's why I'm not the first to jump out there and buy some of these new guns, because some of these, especially if it's some new supposed revolutionary gun, or a whole new platform, it's going to have some growing pains, whatever gun it is, or whatever manufacturer could very well have growing pains. So, and then there could be a Gen 2 that's coming out 6 months later. So, I'm not, especially if it's and I'm just going to say this, especially if it's a damn polymer gun. Good God. I'm just so sick of, the same old shit, because it's lipstick on a pig. I mean, you can take a P10, you can take an M&P 2.0, you can take a Glock, and, that same person can probably shoot all those guns exactly the same, other than the Glock grip angle if they're not used to it. But, I mean, what are you gaining out of another, another polymer platform? In my opinion, not much. So, and I'm not picking on anybody or trying to call anybody out, if you like what you like. And I have a lot of polymer guns too. So, I'm not saying I just have one brand or two brands. I have multiple brands, but at the end of the day, can I do the same thing with each one of them and shoot them pretty much the same? Yeah. I mean, I've proven it to myself. So, but when you do, like Phil was saying, when you do get into the slimline guns and things like that, that is more of a challenge for my hand size and my ability. And the main thing it comes down to me, Phil was like, hey, you got to try more slimline guns. And I get that, and I have in the past, but where I have a problem with is drawing them. When I've got them at the appendix, just grabbing that small grip on some of those. And that's why just saying this particular gun, that CR920XP with that particular grip, it's worked very well for me. I've done hundreds of, dry reps where I'm just grabbing it and I'm not missing that grip where I did on some of the SIGs. So, but that's just a me thing. It's not anybody else thing. So, but if I can't carry it and I don't feel comfortable with it, then that's just not going to be the gun for me. So,
yeah, no, that makes sense. Romans, thanks for that. We have a great time when we get together. And unfortunately we don't get together enough. That is for sure. And we keep talking about doing this more often, and on each other's channels and that sort of thing. So we'll look to try and do this a little bit more often in 2025, catch up more often. That way we're not yapping as much and chatting a little bit more with you guys, but it's fun for us to catch up, for sure. We have a good time together. So, it is a little after 8 o'clock Central anyway. I know 9 o'clock for you, Phil. So we should probably go ahead and end it. Any final thoughts, anything you guys want to share with everybody in the chat?
You can go ahead, Phil.
Just want to say Happy New Year, right? We're coming into 2025. Let's see what it brings. Hopefully it brings prosperity for everybody and a little bit more sanity than we've seen for the past couple of years. That would be nice. I am going to try to go to the the Great American Outdoor Show in Pennsylvania. So if anybody is heading over there, stop over if you see me and just say hello. But if you touch me, I'm going to be really upset. So don't touch me. All right. That means Rabbi, if he's going to watch this later, because I know his ass will be there. He'll be like, come here, let me touch you.
Yeah, just rub his head.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want to go. I want to see what they have there, see if there's anything exciting, kind of a precursor to what might happen later in the year. But, I'll try to get down there. It's in February. So
nice.
Yeah. And I definitely just wanted to, thank KS for having me on. And of course, being able to spend some time with you guys. It's been too damn long. So it's really good to catch up, and of course I have time on my hands now. So it's definitely a good time being with y'all. And I definitely, what Phil was saying, I hope it is a prosperous 2025 for everyone, with family and, health and all of that. And if like I've been saying now, if you haven't reached out to someone that you haven't talked to in a while, family members, friends, please do. Life's too damn short. A lot's happened with me and my family this year. So I'm hoping 2025 is going to be better and we can just move on and press forward and have everybody in good health. So that's what I'm hoping for. And of course, very appreciative of all the subscribers. I know we share a lot of subscribers that are out there. I consider them family members, really great people, and they're good for us. So hopefully we're good for them too.
Nice. Yeah. Well said. And I echo all of those sentiments. Certainly thankful that I know you guys, and thankful for everyone out in the chat. Really appreciate it. For those who are not able to make it, maybe you'll catch it on the rerun afterwards. You were missed if you were not here, and we will definitely do this again. So looking forward to seeing what 2025 has in store. We haven't had a winter yet so far in Kansas, so I'm thinking that's going to happen here before too long. So time to button it up. But anyways, listen, thanks so much, everyone. Really appreciate all of your time. Happy Sunday, happy New Year. Be safe and have a good time. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Y'all take care.
Everybody.
Thanks.